Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 8. Thank you for coming along. Today we have Andrew Weir of UA Market. If you want to say hello there, Andrew.
Hello, how you doing?
So we'll get into Andrew's story, where he's been, what he does now, all that sort of stuff. Just before that, if I could just say to you guys, whether you're watching this on whatever platform, if you could check out the YouTube channel, Rural to Kitchen. I did find out last week it was called Rural to Kick then, and I hadn't noticed I'd spelt it wrong. But it's now spelled correctly, and you'll find it under Rural to Kitchen. Check out on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and Facebook, and you'll see stuff like these podcasts. I've actually started vlogging, probably a bad decision, and just a lot of other stuff about farming and whatnot. And if you want to get in touch with me, you maybe know of someone in the agricultural industry, or maybe you know of yourself and you think you've got quite a cool story, get in touch. And we might be you might be sat in the same chairs. Well, not the same chairs, Andrew, because that's in his house, but you sort of get the picture there. We'll see how this goes. For those of you watching on YouTube, the bandwidth's a wee bit of a problem here. If it's working fine, we'll keep the cameras on. If it starts to be a wee bit dodgy, we'll maybe jump and put them off. Andrew does look quite the opposite of me from a groomed perspective, shall we say. So he probably looks better. So he's probably wanting to keep the camera on. It's me that's not. But we'll get on into it. Andrew, bored of me talking nonsense and whatnot at the start, as always. But who's Andrew Weir? What's your sort of story? Where are you from? That sort of thing.
My name's Andrew Weir, 26-year-old, 27 this year. I'm originally from a small farm just outside Stirling, 8 miles from Stirling itself, heading towards Glasgow, a little village called Castlecarey, just right next to the Castlecarey Arches, where you've probably been stuck in traffic before, or there's been a snow blizzard or something you're in a bit there. So our farm's just run a bit in there. Mostly arable at home. Dad's full time himself, and I keep a mix. Well, I keep about a couple hundred cows of my own, and some pedigree Limousin cattle with the odd commercial calf for a bit of fun, more a hobby. That's kind of keeps me on my toes, as well as working full time for United Auctions based in Stirling. So I went to Denny High School for all my days, and then left when I was 16. Straight to less than August, straight to Oakridge College. Done 3 years at Oakridge, studying a diploma in agriculture. And then after that, took a year out and done a bit of working locally in farms, milking, bits and bobs, harvest, things like that, as well as helping at home. And then I started at United Auctions full time. I started off out as a yard operator, more or less a drover, penning and back and stuff like that as well, before realising I wanted to be an auctioneer. So at that point, there wasn't actually any auctioneer job available. They just recently employed another 2 auctioneers. So I then left and went and worked for Genus ABS, an artificial semen insemination and semen sales company. So I done 2 years for them, doing my full AI training, PD training, and was getting a bit involved with the embryo work before auctioneering job appeared back up at United Auctions, and I left and came back again. So I was at Genus for 2.5 years. Got my full AI ticket, full pregnancy diagnosis training down in Wales, and then they actually sent us to Poland to do an official certificate before they would allow us out and farm. And that was a case of AIing a cow in a slaughterhouse. The cow was then AIing it would die, and the cow was then killed, and you got its cervix, ovaries, everything on the table, and you had seen where you'd put the dye, whether it was in the right place, as of it would have been semen. So that was quite interesting to see whether you were bang on or nowhere near, and you had to be bang on before they would let you home, basically, and let you back out on the road. So no, that was quite an interesting side of it as well, and I was quite heavily involved in a bit of semen sales and supporting the kind of beef pedigree farmers around about the Stirling area. So once the job came back in Sorry.
No, just saying, excellent, interesting. On you go.
Back to United Auctions when the trainee auctioneer's job came again. Started in the July. That would be coming up for 3 years this summer. I'll be back at United Auctions as a trainee auctioneer. So I currently canvass every day that there isn't a sale on, and our sale days are majority Wednesday, Thursday, apart from Dalmally every second or third Friday, and then open on a Saturday, and also Huntly sales on Saturdays as well. So day-to-day basis would be going around farms. Weekly, obviously, everything's a bit up in the air just now with COVID, so it's kind of disrupted stuff. But we are still trying to get on farm as much as possible, but only phoning ahead with permission to make sure farmers are accepting us out on the road, because canvassing stock and keeping the market full is basically key and part of the food chain. So our store sales are every Wednesday, so that's store cattle, calf cows, and store sheep as well at this time of year, whereas it fluctuates when the big store sheep sales, they get put onto a Monday after we get a fair whack of numbers in. And then on a Thursday is the prime lambs, cow ewes and cast tucks as well, which actually now sell the cast cows on a Thursday afternoon as well after the prime sheep's finished. So that's kind of my platform and department, alongside another auctioneer as well. But when they first start, you're selling, you do farm sales, so it's kind of like a route. So that's where you kind of strengthen your voice, and a case of getting your rhythm, knowing your sellers, knowing your buyers, and you start from basically selling a garden rake to a hose to a sledge to a water bowser or anything that gets put in front of you, more or less. So it's more of a wing it sort of thing than anything else. And then of course you move on to the kind of heavier implements, gates, ring feeders, creep feeders, and then onto your tractors, machining, stuff like that as well. So depending how strong your voice is when you get hauled off the trailer and another auctioneer steps in. So no, that's where you start off. So I done 3 full farm sales. My first one was down at Ballantrae. It was a farmer coming out of a farm down there, and it's a case of stand up in the trailer and go for it, more or less. You do a bit of practicing beforehand in the car down, and my way of learning was videoing other auctioneers, just sound recording on your phone and listening to them back. Obviously, you don't want to imitate anyone else, but you kind of take the good bits, the bad bits, and make up your own speed, rhythm, and it just kind of comes more naturally. So so that's me selling the cash sheep every Thursday, and hoping to progress on from there.
Good stuff. So you're from an arable farm there, you were saying, Andrew. Was it ever arable for you, or was that quite soon you jumped onto more livestock sort of thing?
Well, I think that since being young, 14, 15-year-old, we've got a local dairy farm not far from us. I used to cycle up there, do the milkings morning before school and then evenings after school. So it's just to kind of take a fancy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like ploughing and seeding and, helping dad and whatever as well. But yeah, I just kind of take a preference to one rather than the other. Yeah. As well as it being cattle and sheep rather than just one department. You can kind of venture down both roads. So that way, when you land and farm, you can talk, trade in both sectors as well, which United Auctions are quite happy with you doing that as well. I mean, landing and farming and being able to talk both sectors as a kind of sales point anyway. But through United Auctions, also put you on a auctioneering and evaluation course down at Harper Adams. So this is a 4-year sort of block releasement course. And at the end of it, it's partly run by the Institute of Auctioneering, and at the end of it you get a diploma at the minute, but they're trying to make it a degree in valuing stock, land, covers everything all together. So comes in very handy when it comes to farm sales and stuff like that as well. It's ideal for that.
And do you need that qualification to be an auctioneer at a certain level, or not necessarily?
No, not to, well. To be able to sell things officially, you need to have a qualification. But it's more when it comes to farm sales, as in land valuation and handovers for, maybe divorces, deaths, or wills and stuff like that as well. So it's just so you're fit to sign the dotted line at the bottom and actually means some sort of thing. But no, Harper Adams is pretty good. I mean, it's a class of 30 all young auctioneers, more or less the same age from the whole of the UK as well. So you're seeing farms, markets down in Devon, and there's boys from Orkney. I mean, it's a bit of everything. There's people that sell furniture, and there's people that sell pigs. It's just completely widens your scope altogether, and the whole job is what you would have expected. So
it's good to meet those folks sort of in, maybe not directly in the exact same line as you, but in a very similar line. You sort of benefit from it often, don't you? What sort of numbers of stock do you see through the market at different times of the year? It's obviously going to peaks and trough, but what sort of numbers say at what different times, how it fluctuates?
So you'll have store cattle and prime sheep sales, which are usually round about between either this time of year heading to the grass, or for the next 6 weeks to the grass, or the back end when coming off the grass. So that's usually at our peak. So seasonal work would definitely be important, especially with cattle coming off the grass. But it's weather dependent. I mean, if it's a wet month in August, you start to see cattle coming off. Whereas if it's a dry month, people hang on into September, October. Depends how the cattle's looking as well. More to the key. I mean, you don't sell on, well, you can sell on the same date every year, but cattle, some are better some years, or winter better next year. It's just when the stock's ready to sell. But fat sheep, it's a kind of different job altogether. So obviously it's very seasonal work, because majority of people lamb at the same time of year. Your lambs are usually ready at the same point of the year, and they kind of dwindle away. But over the last 3 years, I've noticed that people are lambing a lot earlier and a lot later. So the season is widening like a big lot for variety as well, because people are lambing that wee bit earlier to get the lambs away to suit the market, and then lambing a bit later again. So it's more or less goes back to what your farming system suits.
Yeah, absolutely. What sort of, do you know, I mean, I'm not expecting exact figures, but do you have any figures as to how many? Just roughly, or not sure?
I wouldn't say I couldn't have to put a figure on it exactly, but I mean, there would be, say, an average 1,200 store cattle every week throughout the year, and between 4,000 prime lambs every week throughout the year, maybe. I would have said as a rough figure anyway, 1,200 to 1,500 store cattle, and be 4,000 hogs, and then 1,000 to 1,500 cull ewes most weeks of the year, I would have said. Yeah.
Aye. Just for viewers, Andrew, that might not be over acquainted with farming, you're saying figures, words, sorry, like prime and store. What do they mean?
Well, store, just we've got a lot of potential store buyers that will come and they'll buy cattle that the farmer has reared. So it could be between 6 months old to 12 or 13, 14 months old. So then that would be classed as store. So that would be a yearling, but it wouldn't be at the right weight to kill. So then you have another kind of big farmer that will buy them and put them into a feedlot. Obviously, it suits his system better, and put feeding into them and then finish them straight into abattoir. Whereas in the sheep industry, it's a prime sale, as in it's butchers, wholesalers, and companies that come and buy prime lambs, and they'll get slaughtered usually within the next day or the next week. Anyway, they're prime, ready to be hung up and slaughtered.
You mentioned sort of the change of you briefly mentioned COVID. It's always quite interesting. I've asked everyone so far on the podcast actually how COVID has impacted them and their job. How would you say that's been for yourself and also for markets?
I would definitely say it's been pretty difficult, as in adapting to the times of dealing with traditional farmers, as in traditional farmers are set in their ways as it is without a pandemic coming in and telling them that they can't do something when they've done it for the last 60, 70 years. But as an industry, I would have said that we have benefited from it, but it's just a shame that it's taken a pandemic to get to this stage, sort of thing. As personally, I would have said it's been pretty difficult adapting to the rules, realising what you can't do. At the end of the day, you still need to keep going on and make, you still have to work. Obviously, the first week was a bit of a scare, and everybody, it was a bit of a things were turned upside down. But I would have said it's just adapting to the new times, really. I mean, you've got to obey by the rule, 2 meters, everything. We've managed our top sales, managed our bull sales. It's a case of sitting on top of it. Don't let the rules slip back, because once you enter the building, enter the market, and it's a 2 meter zone or whatever, you make it clear. A lot of the directors up with us as well have been very, very hard pushing it, obviously, to cover the business and its own back, and keeping everybody safe more than anything. It's difficult times, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one word for it. We're actually filming this. I know this won't come out till May, I think. We're filming this on the 23rd of March, so sort of the lockdown versary. Yeah. But it's almost normality now, it's what we sort of know, and yeah, it is a challenge. It totally is a challenge. But you mentioned there your bull sales and your top sales. What was that, sorry?
We've adapted the market within the COVID rules and stuff, and we've got an online bidding system and webcams now as well. So, like, to people that maybe were vulnerable or didn't feel safe coming to the market, they could still purchase, still keep farming, still buy what they need to buy from their home, like. So I was quite heavily involved with the bull sales and stuff like that, as well as in picking bulls for farmers and making sure farmers were quite happy with what they got, and the online bidding facility, and a lot of visits from farm to farm, and a booked appointment only, and obviously under the COVID restrictions, but it was the case of 2 people for 20 minutes, then they leave, and it wasn't like a big massive gathering. It was a case of slots, and people would visit farms, or they've bought a bull off that person for the last 5 years, and 5 seasons, and the bull's done well, so we'll just head back there, just get by. But I like to say, a year on, we're still, well, we're on a bit of a rise now, but we're still really where we were this time last year, in theory.
What's involved in that bidding system then? So do you see the stock involved, or how does that work?
So everything is lot numbers, and the lot number corresponds to what's in front of you. But obviously we have the hiccups, as in for a while it was like a 3-second delay. So you're trying to run a live bidding system. The auctioneer's obviously taking bids if it's in front of them, as well as the computer pinging in halfway through as well. So it's a case of entering the value of what's in front of you, and then if someone online wants to ping in more than that, then they put a bid higher, sort of thing. So but no, it seemed to work very well. I mean, there was a large proportion of bulls did go in the online system, but there's a happy medium, because I mean, a lot of people that did come to the sale travelled far and wide, bottom side England, to visit the bull sales, and then they're getting knocked out by someone on the internet. So I mean, there was a few people cursing and complaining that they were not getting what they wanted. But at the end of the day, it's a market, it's a bidding, it's a live auction. Do you know what I mean? That's just the ins and outs of it.
Will some of those systems be used in a sort of post-lockdown world, do you think, or not?
We would probably try and go away from it and go back to the live auction, just of guarantees and warranties, and you've seen it in your own eye yourself, and there's no comeback either way, sort of thing. Whereas if you're buying over a video or buying over pictures, buying a lot number, and we're describing it on the phone, you're putting your trust, and obviously a lot of money involved in these kind of things as well. So if you see it there and then yourself, that way that's what you've picked, and it's your own eye, you're judging it by. So I would have said there's never been anything mentioned, because obviously we're getting by with what we're doing, but I would like to see they would kind of drift it away and go back to the normal style.
You mentioned there, Andrew, that you've got folk buying from South England. Where sort of do you have folk selling from? What's the sort of radius for that?
Selling can be anywhere really. Just we've got the top side of Aberdeen come down to Stirling, because of where we're located. Is a very, very ideal situation, as in 2 hours from Dumfries, Stranraer, 2 hours from Aberdeenshire. A lot was either way, any time of the day. We have a lairage facility as well, or an overnight facility, sorry, that can house cattle and sheep for any overnight stays. And then of course we've got this as well, which if we don't have a market on the island, the island cattle come to us as well, and sheep, the island stock, sorry, come to us anyway. So
the way, I mean, the reason I know you-ish is just over the phone. So a lot of your job will be phoning farmers and whatnot, and you talk about farm visits. What are they actually for? Is that just to keep folk in the loop, or is there more to
that? To keep folk in the loop, and making sure they're selling their stock at the time where it's most value to them. You don't want to be, it's quite hard to describe it. You don't want to be selling something when it's not at its peak at 12 o'clock, is what we always say. So I've seen us going on to a farm with maybe 40 bullocks in a shed, and only drawing out 12 or 15 that are actually ready to sell that week, and letting the farmer feed the rest on for maybe a fortnight, 3 weeks, a month, and they could grow into maybe 50 to £100 more than what they would have been that day if you sold them, sort of thing. So it's more or less seeing stock, seeing farmers, keeping them in the loop, and a farmer sees their stock every morning 3-4 times a day, maybe 5 times a day. They'll not see it altering as much as us dropping in and seeing a change, maybe in 1, 6 weeks time, whether they've started feeding, stopped feeding, changed feeding, stuff like that as well. So sometimes they like another opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an experienced opinion as well, isn't it? It's not just another opinion, it's someone that's sort of got their eye into the actual market. So yeah. You work for UA, you've mentioned Stirling, that's where you're based. Where else are UA based? Just in Scotland, or?
Yeah, so we have, I think there's 7 centres over the whole of Scotland. So there's Stirling, Oban, Huntly, Tyree, Islay, Uist, and I think that'll be it. Yep. That's all the centres that we operate out of. And Dalmally as well, sorry, that was the other one, right, that we operate out of. So we don't hold weekly auctions at them but it's every kind of it's calendared, so we get a sales calendar at the start of the year to where but obviously we've been up in Dalmally and Oban and stuff like that as well. That's very seasonal sales to suit farmers up there. Obviously with rougher climates and different farming systems up there, you want to be selling when it suits them than a weekly sale, because there'll be some people that are fit to sell every week and some people that will sell once a year, and that'll be it, sort of thing.
Aye, yeah. By the way, I'll just say I'll edit this part out if what I'm saying at the minute. If you don't want to answer this, that's fine. I'm just going to ask, how does a market make its money? Is that one you want to answer or not? You don't have to if you don't want. Absolutely understand. I cut this out, obviously.
How does it make its money? I'm trying to think of a way to word it.
You don't, honestly, if you don't want to answer, I know it could be a bit of a contentious one and whatnot anyway, so
I could answer it. I would say it could make it, or do you want to say it first so that you can?
Yeah, I'll just say it. Yeah, so moving on from that, I guess, Andrew, you're obviously working at this market. It's a big business. How does a market actually go about making its money?
I would have said, first of all, customer service, repeat customer service is pretty important, as in getting the most value for their stock when selling them, and as well as, numbers wise, and keeping stock flowing through the market is very important. And suppose commission as well. Farmers pay a percentage of commission to sell stock, which is just purely to keep markets open and running. A lot of markets have different percentage of commission to charge, obviously, which suits their operating systems. But United Auctions, we're actually the lowest in the whole of Scotland for commission charges as well. So we try and keep it at a bare minimum, but it's more, I would have said, customer service and keeping the buyer as well as the seller happy at all times to improve. Because it's better off in your pocket than anyone else's, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. How many? I mean, there's going to be obviously loads of different facets to this, but how many folk are in like your team there, Andrew, at Uti?
So there'll be sales staff. There'll be between probably 20 to 25 sales staff, alone, all covering different areas throughout the whole of Scotland. So up in the Huntly market, there is a head auctioneer and two auctioneers as well. So they cover the whole of Aberdeenshire, more or less, right down to Perth. And then we go from Perth up the way, as well as auctioneers. There's also field persons. So there's people that purely go out and canvass stock week in, week out, every day down farm road ends, visiting farmers and getting stock to the market, as well as auctioneers. So we're quite a big team, but we all more or less work together, as in which customer suits which rep, sort of thing. So there will be a small bit of crossing over, but nothing drastic, as in. But if there's stock there and you're getting on well with the farmer, go see them, sort of thing. It's a case of as many farms as you can get down, and relationships you can get is most important.
Aye. I mean, like we've covered sort of the job auctioneering and what it involves, and what your day-to-day job is. How am I trying to say this? Basically, is there anything more entailed in the job that maybe we haven't covered that you can think of, or? Yeah, I'm not up on it all, is what I'm basically saying.
I would have said the trade is very important. It's fine and well having a sale every week, getting stock into the market, but you have to have somebody there to buy them. So having buyers that are willing to come to the market, and there's an outcome for your stock, sort of thing. There's no point in getting on the stock to the market and then scratching your head thinking, who's going to buy these? So there's a lot of preparation that goes ahead, that goes through before a sale as well as after a sale. Haulage, getting the cattle to the market, selling them, and then the purchaser getting the right cattle away with them. So the full running of a market is pretty important, as well as buyers coming to the sale, being a good show of stock forward for them, as well as getting a good trade for the farmers. So I mean, the more people you can work with that are willing to buy, the more you can get into the market, sort of thing. So at the minute, we've actually got 3 or 4 English buyers coming up every week, which are buying Scottish cattle, Scottish assured, no TB restrictions, no nothing. Can take them back down to their farm, straight into the sheds, feed them right out, and kill them without having to annual TB test or weekly or monthly, TB test. And they're all Scotch assured, and they'll get a premium on that as well. So, getting decent sized sales encourages people to buy, not just as well as local buyers, but I mean coming from further afield to get a better stamp of cattle and sheep goes a long way.
And trade has been good this last year. What does that do for you guys?
It encourages. I mean, it gives the farmers a good lift. Probably what's been needed in the last year. To be honest, farmers break their back day in, day out, 12, 14, 20 hours a day. So it's a little reward getting a good trade at the other end. But I mean, there's things to think about, inputs and everything's going up as well. It's not just a case of a bonus at the end of the year sort of thing. It's inputs are all going up as well. So really the trade being good is just moving with the trend sort of thing. So I wouldn't take it as consideration as a bonus. I would say it's where it's maybe getting to where it needs to be to keep farmers afloat, even just.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with whatever happens with Brexit. But that's definitely something we're not going to get into. Hopefully it's not just a COVID affected blip, and it's actually a sign of things to come. That's been good though, Andrew. I've really enjoyed that chat. What we do, I don't know if you've watched the podcast. It doesn't matter if you haven't. Don't worry, I won't be offended. What we do at the end is there's a couple of questions I ask everyone, and this all started before I did this podcast. Back in July, I started doing these interviews with folk in the industry and whatnot. And two things I always ask with: one, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And two, if you had any tips for anyone coming into the auctioneering sector, I guess, what would they be?
Where will I see myself in 5 years? Hopefully still employed for a start. No, progressing through the company, building up my customer base even more, and maintaining the customers that I still have, as well as taking on a lot more. Anyway. So although I've been at United Auctions for 3 years, it is still pretty new compared to the general scale. I know definitely just progressing through the company. And any tips for someone coming into the it's long hours, and you've got to make sure you enjoy it, because if you enjoy it and it doesn't feel like work or it's not a chore sort of thing. So definitely long hours, commitment, and it's no easy, but if it was, everybody would do it. But no, agriculture is definitely something I've heavily been involved in all my life, and it's very interesting. It's a lot of community, really, isn't it? It's a case of fitting in and making sure you can make a good job at it, sort of thing.
Most folk, when asked that, say something along the lines of community networking. Make sure that try hard first off, but try meet people, get to know the people in different sides of the sector and stuff. So yeah, very, very similar stuff that you just said. But you actually just brought up one question that I should have asked before. You mentioned your sort of your clients. How many do you have, or is that not a figure you have an idea of?
No, when I said it's a figure, I would have in the top of my head, because obviously you're trying to grow it as much as and you'll have people that some get paid, farms get built on, some that often, but you try and cover as many as possible in a manageable way, that you can make a job at everyone, and not a case of picking and choosing sort of thing.
Yeah, good. Well, I think we've sort of been around the houses there. Had a good chat. Is there anything else you can think of there, Andrew?
No, I would say they've pretty much covered everything. Yeah.
Well, this is going to be slightly edited from what actually happened there. Andrew just disappeared a couple of times, and his audio and video is perfect now compared to the slight problem there was at the start, but not a problem. It's worked good. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you've came along from Andrew's side of things, welcome, and maybe join the herd with Rural to Kitchen. Not join the herd. I've totally stolen someone else's slogan there. That's our farming journey, so I'll pretend I didn't say that. Yeah, thank you for coming along. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you've seen us. Google Podcasts now, actually. And if you have any tips for someone to come on the podcast, just let me know. So yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. And we'll see you sometime soon.
Thank you.